Hello and welcome to another episode of Autogefühl with me, AJ. The Skoda Octavia has been around for over 20 years and is Skoda's best-selling car with over 5 million units sold. This here is the latest version of the same. As you can see, there's been a little bit of redesign in the exterior, but what's really important is what's going on inside. There's all new infotainment system and much better driver assistance functions. So, are you interested? Let's find out more. Come on, let's go. So up front is where most of the new design changes are obvious. First of all, these headlights are brand new, as you can tell. There's a split in the middle and the smaller section kind of joins in with the grille to make it appear a little bit wider. But in my opinion, I don't think it looks that good. It kind of reminds me of an older Mercedes E-Class. But don't take it from me. We'll talk to the designer in a little bit and he's going to give you his first-hand information about all the little changes they made and why they made it. But apart from that, there is the radar control for the adaptive cruise control right in the middle of the grille. Here on the side, not much has changed. We have 17-inch wheels, and because we have the style trim level, we get chrome along the window edges. So the Skoda Octavia is about 4.6 meters long and it's about 1.8 meters wide. So here at the back, I think it's instantly recognizable as a Skoda. We do have slightly revised tail lamps, and again, we'll hear about it soon. Apart from that, since we have the all-wheel drive version, we have the 4x4 badging over here. And finally, this is the racing blue color, the Thomas blue, as we like to call it. And it kind of matches with this partly cloudy, but you can still see a little bit of blue skies here in Portugal. So let us know what you think and put your comments in the section below. So here we have the key. It has keyless entry, so now it's locked. It unlocks and the mirror comes out. Let's check the sound. Sounds pretty solid. So the door opens really wide. We have pretty decent plastics up here. We have a nice trim over here, along with the ambient LED lighting. I will show you that in a bit. Down here, the plastics are okay, not the best. This again is nice. The switchgear is again fairly good, but again, these plastics are a bit hard and brittle. So as you can see, the seat is completely electronically adjustable. Unfortunately, it's all leather. We here in Autogefühl, we prefer animal-friendly leatherette. But apart from that, I think the interior is very clean. Not too many lines and elements. Very typical of Skoda and hence the Volkswagen family. In this trim, in this specification, it's all black, which I wouldn't like. I would like to have some more beige in it. And of course, you can choose to have the same as well. So let's get inside the car. So the seating position is as expected. You can set your seat lower if you want. The steering wheel can also be adjusted for height and reach. Apart from that, it's very familiar, very similar to the other Volkswagen family range. And like I said earlier, you can spec these seats if you want in cloth or in Alcantara. And let's see how all the new functions in this car work. Now, the new Octavia comes with a whole host of new safety features and driver assistance systems and this brand new infotainment system. So let's take a look at it piece by piece. So first off, on the steering wheel, there's a new button. This is the button to access all the new assistance systems. We have, some of them are already there before, like the lane assist, but we also have a lot of new functions like blind spot monitoring, rear traffic alert, front assist, and there's also emergency braking, trailer assist, and a bunch of things like that. Apart from that, you can go back to your main menu and you have a lot of information about your driving data, vehicle status, your telephone, the audio controls, navigation, and things like that. Behind the steering wheel, you have paddle shifters for the 6-speed DSG that we have here, and you have the lever to control your adaptive cruise control, and the dashboard has two retro dials with the tachometer and the speedometer being analog, with a fuel gauge and an oil temperature gauge within them, and a LCD screen in the middle. Now, unfortunately, we are not going to get a virtual dashboard in the Octavia anytime soon. Let's take a look under the armrest, give it the shake test. Yeah, it's pretty solid. You have a nice cubby hole, fairly deep, with a felt lining in the bottom. So if you want, you can drop your phone and then it won't rattle around. You can also adjust the length of the armrest to suit your driving position. Down here we have a manual handbrake, and adjacent to that we have cup holders with this tray that you can insert, and this will help you organize things like your key and maybe some spare change. And we have another bottle holder, and again with Skoda's Simply Clever scheme, they have little studs in the bottom, so it kind of clamps onto your bottle, and you're supposed to be able to open it with only one hand, and it can probably work, perhaps with a bigger bottle. But apart from that, in front of it, we have a 12-volt power socket, and this is the gear lever for the 6-speed DSG that we have in this test car. It comes with the 4x4, the intelligent all-wheel drive system, which is basically a electronic coupling like the Borg-Warner Haldex system that we've discussed earlier. And behind that, we have buttons for changing the drive mode. I'll show you that in detail in a little bit. And the power tailgate, the parking sensor, and the automatic parking function, and the ESP button. And behind that, finally, we have the inductive charging port, a USB socket, and an auxiliary socket. So let's take a look at the climate console. This has been redesigned a little bit as well, and you also get heated steering wheels. Now this is very easy to access. Once you turn on your seat heater, then the steering wheel also gets turned on as well, but you can turn it off by touching it on by using the touchscreen. Now let's talk about the infotainment system. This is a new system, and we have in our test car the optional top-of-the-range Columbus system with a 9.2-inch touchscreen, and they have only capacitive buttons, even for the volume, no knobs whatsoever. So let us know what you think about that. Apart from that, let's look at the menu. This car also comes with the optional Canton 10-speaker sound system. And I think the most important update is this, the Skoda Connect. Now you can access this if your phone is connected to the system, or you can even use a SIM card to get connectivity. But with this, you can access things like online traffic information, Google Earth, check for open parking spaces nearby, like so. You can even use Google Street View, check for points of interest nearby. You can learn your most common routes, look for petrol stations, and you can also check for live weather updates. A lot of useful connectivity information. Apart from that, the other important update is the mirror link. So as you can see, we have our iPhone connected to the car, but you can also connect it with Android Auto. Now, talking about the screen, well, I think it has a major flaw, and that is it's so glossy. As you can see, if I just slide my fingers across it, over a couple hours of usage, it's going to leave a lot of fingerprints. And because it's a bit shiny, you know, like on a sunny day, with the sunroof open especially, the screen kind of glares and it's difficult to see. But I think it's a really useful system, and it's a much needed upgrade. And again, it's optional, and if you don't like having everything touchscreen, you can spec a different infotainment system if you want. Here in the vehicle status menu, you can change a lot of settings, check regarding your tire pressure, the parking, things like that. And interestingly, you can also change the ambient light. There's up to 10 colors, and as you can see, you can vary them, and the front and the rear passengers will get to see these colors changing. Here in the navigation, you can change the view to Google Earth, as you can see, and you can even zoom in, and if there's Street View available, you can even access Google Street View. And also, there's a new and improved rear view camera with dynamic guidelines. It also has parking assist, so you can check for parallel parking, and it has a top-down camera as well, along with sensors around the car. And finally, just a quick look at the drive modes. We have Eco, Comfort, Sport, and Individual. Now this car gets the DCC, the Dynamic Chassis Control. So for comfort, the suspension is a lot more supple. For normal, it's a little bit more adaptive, and for sport, it's a lot more stiff. The Skoda Octavia also comes with an emergency SOS button. So if you have subscribed to the service, if you press this button, it will notify the authorities and say that you need help. It also activates automatically in case of an accident. You also have the Skoda Connect app, which you can download to your phone, and then using that you can remotely access your vehicle status, find out your parking position. It will blink the lights and sound the horn, and it also has an online anti-theft alarm. Here in the back seat, well, I have plenty of room. The Octavia is known to have a lot of interior space thanks to its sort of boxy design on the outside. Well, I have the seat set to my driving position. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters, and I have generous knee room. Headroom is also okay. I have a very wide, expansive panoramic sunroof, which makes the whole cabin seem a lot more airy and bright and spacious. Apart from that, there is central air conditioning vents I can shut them on and off. I can't change the temperature. There is seat heaters in our car as an option. There's seat heaters. And you have 2 USB ports along with a standard 230 volt plug socket. Along with the other simply clever features that we've seen, you also can have the optional iPad holder for the rear passengers and an umbrella under the passenger seat. We have the electric tailgate. Let's check the safety feature. I think it's pretty good, although it doesn't go all the way back up, so you have to press the button again. You can move the parcel shelf out of the way. So the Octavia gets a 610 boot, which when you fold the rear seats with these tabs over here, it grows to 1,700 liters. There you go. You also have a 12 volt power socket on the left side. And on this side, you get the removable, simply clever LED light. Along with that, you can vary the depth by placing this shelf in different levels. And down here, you have a spare wheel with the tire puncture kit. Now let's take a look under the hood. So just want to point out one interesting fact. There is no insulation on the hood. That's because we have the petrol engine. For the diesel you will get an insulating shield, but for the petrol you don't really need it. And as we will soon see on the highway and around town, it's a very smooth, refined engine, so you don't get any noise into the cabin. So the active trim for the Octavia starts at around 18,200 euros. The style, like the one we have here, starts at 24,600 euros. If you want the RS or Scout, that's upwards of 32,000 euros. But of course, you have an elaborate, extensive list of options, and if you get carried away, you can even touch 40,000 euros. The Octavia is available with 4 diesel and 4 petrol engines, along with 1 natural gas engine, starting off with a 1.0 TSI with 115 horsepower, a 1.4 TSI with 150 horsepower, and the one we have here, a 1.8 TSI with 180 horsepower. The diesels, for example, are the 1.6 TDI with 115 horsepower and 2.0 TDI with 150 horsepower. These are available with 5 or 6 speed manual and 6 or 7 speed DSG. So I'm here with Mr. Marko Jeftic, the project leader for the exterior design of the new Skoda Octavia. Thank you so much for being with us. So first things first, this is a bit of a controversial decision, but I'm sure there's a reason behind it. So can you please walk us through the decision and the new design philosophy for the facelift Octavia?
All right. First of all, we don't find this decision as controversial as you just said, but there was obviously a very strong reason to do that. Basically, the main reason was to give the new Octavia a strong, unique character. This was one thing, to freshen it up, to modernize it, and I think we were very successful at that. One of the main objectives for us was also, of course, though, that we don't fall into the temptation of having all the family members looking the same. So what we wanted to do is basically that our limousines also differ from one another, so that on one hand they are instantly recognizable as part of the Skoda family, and this, for instance, we achieve with the elements like the power dome or the grille. For instance, the power dome is something we had on Octavia 1, so it goes way back, but it's going to be always reinterpreted and done in a little bit different fashion on each car in order to give it its own character. But on the other hand, it's a very important part of our design DNA. Second reason was obviously also that the Octavia gets a very unique Octavia face, so to say, so that our limousines, the Rapide, the Octavia and the Superb, each have their own character. I hope I answered the question.
I think it makes a lot more sense now.
Alrighty. A few quick words to the design. On the front, we changed everything from the A-pillar onwards. We have a completely new hood with the island theme. We call this blister the island theme. This is something that you have already on the Fabia as well as on the Superb. On the Fabia it's completely soft, on the Superb a little bit sharper. And this car has it somewhere in between, so it's modeled in a different fashion. So it's, again, an element that is part of our family, but on the other hand, it's done in a fashion that basically this car makes it work very unique. Let's go to the double headlamps. There's a certain logic to that too. On our off-road, on the part of the off-road family, we have the vertical on the Kodiaq. Here we put it horizontal. And the interesting thing here is when the headlamps are switched off, they basically appear almost as one unit with the grille together. So the grille appears extremely wide when switched on. The grille still has the chrome frame, so you still read the Skoda grille. Very important was also the insides of the headlamps. We have a completely new day driving light, as well as the eyelashes in here, so these are lit up. And this gives the car a certain depth, an extra character again, and it also shows our love for detail. On the bottom, all the lines are very horizontal and are going from side to side, same as the air intake, and this is again to emphasize the width of the car. So that was basically more or less to the front, and maybe I can say also a few words on the back, if you want to join me.
Sure.
So, a few quick words to the back. At the back, for beginning, we made the rear track is 30 millimeters wider. That's quite a lot. Through this, the car has a much better stance, so it stands better on the wheels. No need for spacers anymore, so to say. We changed completely the tail lamps, so we have completely new insides. And again, for instance, the C graphics around it, this is lit up. We used to have it already on the predecessor, but it was done in a different manner. Right now we have the so-called surface LED technology, which means this part is lit up very precisely at night and you instantly recognize what car is in front of you. The insides, these two little stones, look like gems or look like glass crystals, and also here on this part we have a decoration which basically resembles that of the glass crystal, so of the cuts in the glass crystal. Now why is that so? It's probably because many people know Czech has a long tradition, so Czech Republic has a long tradition of glass manufacturing and crystal manufacturing. And by this we wanted to give the car, in spite of it being a global product, also, let's say, a national identity. So we gave him a little bit of Czech on the way, so to say. The bumper is also completely new. We have this negative undercut here and this surface. So these two lines now bind exactly to the side. And you really see that the whole design theme is going completely once around the car, that everything is structured, logical, and in its place where it should be. The cat eyes are pulled to the sides, and the diffuser gives the car extra sportiness. So I hope all in all we achieved with the facelift to give the car a really new and unique and instantly recognizable character.
Well, I'm convinced that the new Octavia definitely has a lot more, modern touches and a lot more special touches as well. I hope the viewers agree with me, but let us know what you feel. Put your comments in the section below. Now let's take a spin in the new Octavia. First impressions, it's a really comfortable car. There is not a lot of road noise, there's not a lot of wind noise, even obviously we're going at city speeds, but even then it's really relaxed. You have several driving modes with which you can alter the DCC or the dynamic chassis control. So in eco mode, the throttle response is dulled. The engine holds a low RPM and the gearbox holds a higher gear, so you get better efficiency. Then you also have comfort mode, and on this setting, the suspension is a lot more supple, especially over these bumpy city roads and on cobblestone paths. The car soaks up the undulations really well, and it maintains a very composed and soft ride. But on the other hand, I think the steering wheel is a bit too vague in the center. Yes, it has relatively good weight, especially at higher speeds, and you can change it to sport mode, which I'll show you later. But on the whole, like right now, you see I'm just shaking the wheel a little bit, but there is little to no response from the car, and there is a very dull center. But then again, this is not really meant to be a very sporty car. Apart from that, we have normal mode. Let me just get around this bicyclist. So in normal mode, I think this is the best setting for this car. It suits its personality really well. The throttle response is a little bit better this time, although it does take a couple seconds for the gearbox to shift down and the turbos to spool up and for the car to really start picking up pace. But on the whole, it's okay. The suspension is also much better. It's not so soft and wafty. At the same time, it's a little bit stiff, so you get better handling. And around these narrow city streets, there's good visibility as well out the back, especially because we have the Combi, so we have a very tall and straight windshield. Rear window. So you have really good visibility. And finally, we have sport mode. In this, the engine holds a lower gear and a higher RPM, so it's always quick to respond to throttle inputs. The steering wheel is also a little bit heavier, but again, I just don't feel the responsiveness at the center. But on the whole, again, normal mode is the mode to be in. Okay, now let's try a 50 to 90 kilometer per hour sprint. Ready? Well, I think the response was not so sharp. It took a couple seconds for the car to get up and move, for the gearbox to shift down. And yeah, the sound was also not that sporty, but then I wasn't really expecting it to be. But overall, it's still satisfactory. And remember, you have the four-wheel drive, intelligent all-wheel drive. So if you would like to, do a little bit of corner carving, You don't have to be worried about losing traction because the four-wheel drive will step in whenever it detects that the front wheels are slipping, and the coupling will engage and become all-wheel drive. But apart from that, in-gear acceleration is at least pretty good. So in sport mode, from let's say 50, let's try 50 to 90. So 1, 2. See, it takes a couple seconds for it to pick up and change. But once it gets going, then the throttle response is a lot more sharper, and it's a lot more quick to respond. So here we are driving on the highway in the new Skoda Octavia. First impressions, I would say it's as expected. Nothing really fresh or different about this car compared to the old version. And that's, not unexpected because the platform is relatively unchanged. First, let's start with the seats. I think the seats are quite comfortable. It's really supportive. You can adjust your lumbar support, the base, the reclining of the back, all the usual stuff. However, I do notice that when I have my elbow on the armrest on the left, because the plastic here is quite cheap and scratchy and not really soft, it doesn't feel as comfortable as I would have liked. The armrest on the right side comes up closer towards you. If you want, you can pull it up, and then it's much more relaxed. Really good for long highway cruising. Speaking of long highway cruising, the engine is really smooth. We're driving the 1.8 TSI with 180 horsepower. You can barely hear it, and I think it's overall it's quite a relaxed cabin to be in. The wind noise and the road noise is also at a minimal. And another thing which makes long distance driving quite comfortable in the new Octavia is the new adaptive cruise control. This works at up to speeds of 210 kilometers per hour, and I think it's a much more smoother system than before. It's not so abrupt when slowing down if there's a car in front of you, and it's not so abrupt in accelerating. It's much more gentle. You do get the option of speccing the normal adaptive cruise control, but this only works up to 160 kilometers per hour. But I would recommend that you spend a little bit extra and get this version instead. The steering wheel, well, again, it's not extremely sporty, but with the lane keeping assist, it does steer the car if it notices that you're straying off the line. I don't want to really demonstrate that right now, but maybe I can just show you a little bit. So, see, I'm just keeping my hands very lightly on the steering wheel, and it notices this, and then it gets me back in line. It's, again, really gentle in its operation. It's not jerky. So we have a lot of other driving modes. So let's see, now we're in normal mode. We can go to comfort. Again, because this car gets the DCC, the dynamic chassis control, which is just another word again for the adaptive suspension, the adaptive dampers. It does feel a bit,
now drive to the right.
wafty, because it seems like it's kind of bouncing around a little bit. We're gonna get off the right here, so give me a second. I'll continue. Yeah, so with...
Prepare to drive to the right.
Thank you, navigation.
Attention, toll gate ahead.
With the soft suspension mode, rather the comfort mode, it does feel a bit soft around the corners. Like right now in this exit ramp that we're on, it's a bit wafty, but I guess that helps when you are when you don't need stiff suspension. I mean, there is no need to have stiff suspension and a sporty drive all the time. So in this case, it's pretty good. So let's just get through this toll booth. There we go. Now, one of the biggest issues that I have with this engine, which I would say is perhaps the only issue that I have with this engine, is its consumption. Now, it's very smooth and it accelerates also quite smoothly, but it's not so frugal. Right now, we are getting, let me see, about 7.9 liters for 100 kilometers. 1.8 TSI, 180 horsepower. It should be better. And this is not really a brand new car, because sometimes our test cars are relatively new, so you can't expect them to have great mileage right out of the factory. You need to get them serviced and run them in, things like that. But this car has already run over 3,000 kilometers, so I'm guessing that the initial servicing has been done. And if that's the case, then 7.9, that too, since we've been on the highway for a majority of the time, is a bit disappointing. But apart from that, we also have sport mode. Now the DCC makes the suspension a lot more stiffer, the steering gets a lot more heavier. Although I do notice even in this setting, there is a bit of a dead center. See, right now I am turning the wheel ever so slightly, but there isn't any response from the car, honestly. But again, this is an Octavia. It's good, but it's not that good. And for the price point, it's really a good value for money, but I don't think you should be expecting this car to be handling corners any better than it is right now. This does get the electronic diff lock, but that is more in terms of maintaining grip and traction, not really, again, meant for cornering ability. Speaking of traction, this also has the 4x4, the all-wheel drive, the intelligent all-wheel drive, which we talked about earlier. And this comes mated with the 6-speed DSG, not the 7-speed. And this DSG, I think, is also very smooth. You don't really notice the shifts that prominently. You also have paddle shifters if you want to take more control of the shift, and you can also do it manually with the stick by going up and down. But it's best to leave it as it is. So overall, no surprises, I would say. The improved driving assistance functions are definitely an improvement and will definitely help in the safety. And the screen, again, is much nicer to use and much nicer to look at. Yes, people are going to complain that there are no buttons, but like I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, I think this is how the future is going to be, completely buttonless, completely touch-free. So whether we like it or not, I think we have to start getting used to it. I'm here with Mr. Wojta, and he's going to show us the trailer assist function that is here on the new Octavia. Mr. Wojta?
Hello, nice to meet you. At the first time, you must know where do you want to park with the trailer, yeah? And if you want to make with them, press reverse on the gearbox, press button on the parking assistant, yeah? Please do not touch the steering wheel, because if you touch them, I will show you. If you touch them, the steering wheel, the trailer assistant was being stopped, yeah? The first time I will press the button, yeah, you will see where do you want to go with the trailer, and you will press a button on the mirror screen, yeah? Please, you must check where do you going with the trailer, because it's not full automatic parking assistant, but you just only make a way for a trailer, yeah? And the Octavia will do it by yourself, by yourself, yeah? And you will see there on the display the white one. The white one is where's the trailer for right now, and you will see the yellow circle is a trailer where do you want to go with them, yeah? Okay, we will see the trailer. Yeah, you must know it. Where do you want to park with the car, with the trailer? If you don't know it, it's better to going outside of the car and check the garage or position. Where do you want to park with the trailer? Okay, the trailer was being in the garage.
Fantastic, thank you so much.
No problem.
Let's summarize today's drive of the Skoda Octavia. I think it has a lot of things going for it. First of all, it has a lot of space on the inside in terms of cabin space as well as trunk space, especially in this Combi variant. It gets a much needed upgrade in terms of safety features, driver assistance systems, and the new Columbus 9.2-inch touchscreen. You can still spec the car to be a very good value for money, although it's very easy to get carried away with all the options and make it really expensive. On the downside, I think the design is a bit questionable, but then again, it's just my opinion. So let us know what you think about this car and put your comments in the section below.